For more on this, let's go to John Sitilides, geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors. John, your thoughts on what you just heard? I mean, there's an affirmation of the three leaders of those countries saying that they're moving forward basically without the United States.
Ed, at the end of World War II, when Germany was defeated, the American strategy for Europe was America in, Russia out, Germany down. Now in Syria, the Russian strategy is America out, Russia and Iran in, and the Kurds and the Sunni Arabs are down. And it's definitely a triumph of Putin's strategies playing out from about 2.5 years ago. There was a significant American vacuum in Syria. The Russian military has filled it. And I think going forward, the major concern for the Trump administration is going to be Iranian forces and Hezbollah forces running roughshod throughout southern Syria and connecting Iran through northern Iraq, through southern Syria to Lebanon, and establishing the recurrence of a Persian empire in the Middle East that goes back centuries for the first time in a very, very long time, and it's a very worrisome development.
Well, putting this in perspective, what we've heard from lawmakers on Capitol Hill from both sides of the aisle, and especially the Obama administration, is that Assad's a terrorist and he has to go. That's been their policy. But of course, President Obama would never commit any resources, blood and treasure into Syria because of what unfolded in Iraq, and the country didn't have an appetite to do that again. Is that an alibi, or is that really the way this played out?
Well, it seems that President Obama, looking back, Ed, thought that his rhetoric that Assad must go would become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And of course, that was a tremendous policy fallacy on the part of the Obama administration. President Trump made very clear during the campaign last year and as president that he's not very much concerned with the leadership regime in Syria as much as he is with defeating Islamic State, defeating al-Qaeda in Syria, and ensuring that you don't have radical Islamist terrorist operations from there attacking the United States or our allies or our interests in the region. What happens with the government in Syria, I think, is less of a concern for Trump than are other hotspots in the world right now.
Well, one of the hotspots is Russia. I mean, better relations with Russia could maybe slow down the tensions between Iran and the United States, or is that a bridge too far to think like that?
I'm not sure right now that Russia is going to be very helpful in containing Iran. Remember that Russia and Iran are historical enemies, but right now, from a tactical perspective, they've worked to help each other out. And keep in mind that it was the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps head, Mr. Soleimani, that is, that went to Moscow in the summer of 2015 and convinced Vladimir Putin to engage in military operations, prop up the Assad regime, and here we are 2 years later, Putin prevails in Syria. But in hotspots like North Korea, I think there's a very important role for Russia to play in trying to resolve the Ukraine crisis and elsewhere, and defeating radical Islamist terrorism in Central Asia and the Middle East. So Syria is not going to be the main issue for the Trump administration's policy towards Russia. They're looking to compartmentalize that and look to see where there are cooperative opportunities elsewhere.
And there is a new development in the Middle East, and I'd like you to respond to this if you can, John. Saudi Arabia is going to buy $7 billion worth of weapons from U.S. defense contractors. The agreement is part of the $110 billion arms deal President Trump apparently made with Saudi Arabia back in May. Raytheon and Boeing were selected for the production of precision-guided munitions. The deal is expected to meet resistance in Congress. U.S. weapons have contributed to deaths in Yemen as part of the Saudi Arabia's bombing campaign against the Houthi rebels. John, your thoughts on this deal? I mean, apparently that trip to Saudi Arabia by the president was vitally important.
This is the kind of armaments diplomacy that the Saudis have been very skilled at going back decades, back to the Reagan administration, Ed. And it's been a very important political opportunity for American presidents to be able to talk about arms sales and the jobs that are spread throughout several hundred congressional districts whenever you have this kind of a major arms deal. But the Saudis are very savvy at this, Ed, and they also have tightened their relationship with the Russians, especially in trying to control the price of oil to prevent it from dropping any further. And interestingly enough, as a result of Russian and Iranian activities in Syria, you now have a tactical alliance between Saudi Arabia and Israel against Iran, trying to contain that country. So the Saudis are playing this very skillfully in many different dimensions.
Okay. John Sitilides, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us tonight, sir.
Good to
Thank
be
you.
with you.